first of all, thank you for joining, Vetri. I know it's a little early morning for you, but we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. More people will join the call as we go. This is pretty normal for this session. People do ask questions as well. So I'm going to go through a quick presentation, guys. Partha, you can start recording the session if you don't mind.
Yeah, I have already started.
Okay, so the presentation is going to take a few minutes. So as you see in your screen today, this is a fifth session in this program, CEG Level Connect series. Today, Sunday. Some simple guidelines for the program. For the participants, please stay muted during the fireside chat session, which is the first half an hour. The next half an hour would be question and answers, where you can ask questions live to Vetri through the tool I'm going to introduce to you shortly. Please turn off your video. That make it easy for us to conserve bandwidth. The entire session is recorded, so if you want to watch it later, we can play it. We'll make it available in the CEG Connect portal. You can sign in and then you can look at all the past recordings. If you have any questions during the program, please use the Slido program. And I will talk about Slido in the next couple of slides. There will be periodic live polls that I'll post in Slido. Please participate in the poll and answer those questions. And during the second half of the program, during the question and answers, if your name is called, please unmute to ask your question. Okay. So today's guest speaker is Mr. Vetri Vellore. I had given the LinkedIn profile and I also written a brief about him. So I hope all of you heard it. But Vetri will probably give a small introduction about himself at the beginning. I'll be the host and Partha is my technical supports. To join Slido, all we have to do is to go to slido.com. Whether it is in the mobile or if it's in your laptop or desktop, just go to slido.com. When you go to slido.com, you get a screen like this, as you see in your screen. In the section here, enter the code here. You have to enter the code, which is for today 322145. So 322145. If you enter 322145 here in the screen, like what you see, you should get to this screen here. In this screen, you have two tabs, Q&A and polls. The polls that I'll be publishing will come to you in this tab. You can answer these polls. And if you want to ask any questions to the speaker, you can put it in the Q&A section. And I'll be able to see it, Vetri will be able to see it, and we will get to those questions in the second half of the call. Okay?
On the right side, there is a setup there. You can put your name. Otherwise, it shows anonymous.
Yes. When you ask the Slido question, when you ask the question, you have to specify. If you don't say anything, the default is anonymous. If you click on the tab, it will give you your name or anonymous. You can choose to put with your name or anonymous. I would prefer you put your name so I can call you to ask the question. Thanks, Roger. Okay. Again, thanks, Vetri, for joining. Let me start off the call by asking you to give a very brief intro about yourself, your company, and your journey from the time you left CEG till now. You have about 15 minutes to answer that question, if you don't mind.
All right. Okay. That's about 30 years, and I'll compress it into 15 minutes. Yes. So I left, I was in Guinea from 87 to 91, right? And I don't know why. I was one of those people who was just into computers back then. Right? I was very glad I got into the computer science, but even otherwise, I was into computers. And as one of the few students who had this pass at the time, the ID card to go to the Ramanujan Computing Center. I don't know how many of you remember those things, right? They were not giving those to the first year students, and I had to go to Professor Shankaranathan and get a special permission, right? Because I was just so keen on doing it. And back then we used to punch them into these cards. I don't know, you guys probably don't remember any of that. And then you give it the deck to somebody in the computer center and they'll process it and next day they'll do the printout of what happened to your program, right? Pretty interesting stuff, right? But I was so excited about doing it and I would go there every day and punch it in the cards and give it to them and all that stuff. Anyway, I left in I finished in 91 and I came to the States to do a master's. My intent was to actually do a PhD in computer science, but as I was finishing my qualifier and stuff and applied to Microsoft, one of my seniors from Guinea she was at Microsoft, and I said, hey, can you send this for a internship? And then they came back and said, hey, we would be interested in talking to you about a full-time job. And so I said, okay, why not give it a shot? And somebody that liked me a lot, and they said, "We are going to hire you full time." That was the end of my PhD journey, and I did leave with a master's. I went to Microsoft. This was '93, before Windows 95 and all that stuff, right? Even before Windows NT and everything. Uh, Microsoft was a very small company. It was a fascinating place, right? You would see Bill walking down the street or driving his car himself. There were only 8 buildings. But my first lesson I'll share is at the same time I had an offer from another company that was going to pay me a lot more money than Microsoft did, right? And I really was excited about learning how to do world-class software, and so I chose to go to Microsoft. And in the end, when I look back, it has panned out pretty well for personally someone like me, right? I really enjoyed building software, and Microsoft was the best place. So choosing that learning opportunity over immediate money has worked out reasonably well. And I had some phenomenal opportunities at Microsoft. I was responsible for moving Microsoft MSN network from X25 network to IP network. And imagine someone who's just 24, 25 years old trying to do something massive like that for millions of users, right? So you get those phenomenal opportunities when you're a smaller stage company. In those early stages, Microsoft was small. And I worked on a lot of V1 projects. I always want to be at the confluence of business and technology. I don't know why. Somebody, in fact, in the CG yearbook asked a question, if you had $1 billion, what would you do? And my answer was, I'll start a company. I mean, if you had $1 billion, why do you really start a company? So for me, it was not a motivation to make money. It was to actually build something entrepreneurial. And so to do that, I want to be at the confluence of business and technology. And I was rising up in Microsoft as career-wise doing well and stuff. But at one point, I went to my manager and said, I want to run a business. And a few months later, he called me to his office and said, hey, Vetri, I have an opportunity to run a business. Do you want to do it? And I didn't even ask why, what the business was. I said yes. And the following Monday, when I was introduced to the team, I found out why I got the job because nobody else wanted. Right? That business was in deep trouble. It was a 200 plus $12 million business at that stage, but they were going down in double digits. Right? They shipped a poor quality release. Product satisfaction was kind of worst of any Microsoft product, and they were losing money so fast. In fact, in my very first business review, which happened within 2 weeks of me taking over the business with Bill and Steve, Bill essentially just looked at my deck, opened the first page, threw it back on the table, and said, we should just shut down this business. This is too much pain in this business. We should not run this anymore. Fortunately, we were able to convince them that we need to stay in the business and walked out of that meeting with more headcount to go invest in the business. In about 3.5 years, we turned it around from a business that was going down to a business that was growing robustly. Product satisfaction was in line with Windows, and the team morale was in the first quartile, and all that good stuff. And then I had this brilliant idea. The next big thing was going to be mobile apps. And I decided that I'll go help build mobile apps. And my intuition was right. This was 2004, but my platform was wrong. I ran the Microsoft Visual Studio for devices team, but nobody wanted to write apps for Microsoft platform, Microsoft mobile platforms. And so then I took on a bigger job within Visual Studio. I ran the Visual Studio platform team, all of Visual Studio, the shell and debug and all the stuff you guys see, and the partner ecosystem. And that was my last job at Microsoft. As I said, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I remember telling the guy who interviewed me at Microsoft, I was going to learn the ropes and then go do something on my own in 5 years. 5 became 14. I lost track of time, and I decided that I will leave. One thing I realized when I was trying to make the decision was very, very hard, right? Because it's hard to leave a place where you're being recognized, you're being promoted, and all this stuff. But what hit me hard was that if I don't leave this year, I will not leave next year. They'll only pay me more money. They'll only give me a bigger title, a bigger team. So if you don't leave early, it's harder to leave later. So I decided to just leave, and I left exactly after 14 years. It's like Mahabharatam, right? 14 years, I left, and I did my first company, right? I started the first company the very next day, and that is called Cronus, right? I work on businesses because I'm not because they are hot or something. I don't triangulate and say, oh, crypto and AR, VR or Meta. And I don't do stuff. I work on problems I genuinely believe in. And my first company, Cronus, was about how do you bring the power of mentoring to everyone. Right? I was very fortunate. Right? I had a good career at Microsoft. I was running massive businesses when I was like in my 20s. And that's not because I was the smartest guy in the company or the hardest working guy in the company. I'll tell you that. It is because I had some amazing mentors, people who were willing to take me under the wings, give me guidance. And I thought that made all the difference. I mean, mentors were early on, like Dave Thompson, who ran all of Windows networking. And later on, Satya, who's now the CEO, was one of my mentors. And in fact, Satya told me not to do an MBA. I still went and did my MBA, but he's still a great mentor. Right? I thought their guidance made a world of difference. I want to bring the power of mentoring to everyone. And that is what Cronus did. Cronus was a bootstrap company. I didn't raise money because I have this principle: I'll raise money only after I understand the business well. And it's Cronus, by the time I felt I understood the business well, we had a lot of high value customers like GE, Coke, Amazon, the Federal Reserve Bank, and so on. We didn't need money from outside to continue to grow the company. And in 2015, I mean, the company went through ups and downs, right? But overall, it did really, really well with a lot of large enterprise customers. And in 2015, we ended up selling the company. I didn't really plan to sell the company, but I had two co-founders, both from Gindi, my juniors in Gindi, who are in Chennai. And they were planning to come back to the US for their family, the kids to go to college and stuff. And so it made sense for us to take one of the attractive offers we had, and we ended up selling the company. I did not sell all my stake, but some of my co-founders did. And that is when I left Cronus, and then I started thinking about next company, Ally. So that is the brief history of how I went from Gindi to Ally. Any questions, or which should I give me some guidance, like keep jumping into the Ally part of the journey?
You can talk about your company, Vetri Ally, and how does it fit into the Microsoft strategy. That would be helpful to know.
Sure thing. Okay. So Ally, right, is really about, again, I work on problems I genuinely believe in. Ally journey started when I was in my previous company, Cronus, right? When Cronus was just 20, 30 people, I was, to be honest, studying to run the company. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, man, I run very large businesses at Microsoft, very large teams. What has happened? Have I just become a moron here? What has happened? Right? Why am I struggling to manage a small business? And I had the aha moment that fundamentally how you run a business has changed, right? The expectations and the speed at which business has to move has changed. And I went looking for what are the new models to run businesses, and I found this thing called OKRs. I found a few others, and I started using OKRs, and that is my first exposure to OKRs, right? But Ally as such is not really about OKRs, right? Ally, the real intent I have behind Ally is, see, most people come to work, they have no idea why they are doing what they are doing. Right? They do something because the manager said this is what you should do, or some task management, project management system said, "Tada, this is the next thing you should be working on." Right? How do you bring purpose to work, right? Where people understand that they're doing something bigger than that immediate task or just what the manager asked them to do, right? And I'll share this parable with you, right? This is something I read somewhere, right? This is about a tourist who walks up to three guys, right? These three guys are laying bricks, right? And first they're laying bricks one at a time, putting mortar, bricks, and so on. And he goes to the first guy and says, "So what are you doing?" The first guy says, "Hey, can you not see? I'm laying bricks. Why are you even asking me this question?" The second guy says, "Hey, I'm building a wall," right? And the third guy says, "I'm building a beautiful cathedral." Right? How do we help everyone understand they're building a cathedral and not just laying bricks? How do you bring that purpose to work that is lost today is really why I started Ally, right? If you can help people understand why their work matters and then help them stay focused on what matters, not the daily meetings and stuff, people do amazing things. You can unlock the potential inside all of us. And that is really what was the impetus for starting Ally. And OKR is the framework that we used in our product to bring that purpose to everyone at work and make sure the entire business is aligned towards the strategic priorities. So that is the real intent behind Ally. And in just about 3 years, right, Ally journey is different from my previous startup. I mean, we really launched the product only in June of 2018, and it just took off, right? Within 2 months, 3 months, I had customers like Slack and few really, really well-known customers who are willing to bet on the product. And we were learning a lot from these customers, right? A lot of the innovations in the product really came from listening to customers carefully. And then in 2019, I started seeing the trajectory of Ally is so different from Cronus. I decided to raise money. And within 1 year, we raised like 3 rounds, all from like world-class VCs, right? Paul Allen's Vulcan Fund, Axel, and then Tiger Global. It has never happened, at least in Seattle, that a company raised money so fast. But we are also growing so fast. And now, after about 3 years, We have over 1,000 customers, and we are the industry-leading customer satisfaction score. Even though we entered a market that has already had people who are well-funded, we were able to become the leader in the market within 3 years. That was because we were paying close attention to customers. We had a phenomenal team, most of which is based in Chennai, and we were lucky at the end of the day. Right? Luck plays a big role in all of this. And so that's what Ally does. The mission is to how do we bring purpose to work? How do we help enterprises move fast and execute on that strategic intent, right? The strategic priorities, and achieve their goals. And it's been a fascinating journey so far. If you think of who's who of larger companies, modern enterprises, Slack, Zillow, Coinbase, anybody, right? They'll be using Ally, right? And we got that within 3 years. And that, of course, got the attention of few people inside, including Microsoft. I cannot share a whole lot of details about the transaction itself because it's not public, but I'll show you how it unfolded. I can share that part. They reached out to us, I think, back in November of last year. And I mean, our first inclination was, hey, this is great, but we are doing very well. We are not that keen on getting acquired, right? We would like to rather partner with you because Microsoft is a great company, in my opinion, and has amazing market power and all that stuff. And then they came back in January and said, oh, what about this? What if the deal is this way? And somewhere in the conversation, right, 7 or 8 times where it kept happening, right, we were reluctant, but they gave us really, really good reasons for why we should consider. One of those happened when I met with a pretty senior level person, I think it was Rajesh, who runs all of Windows and Office. He actually said, hey, Vetri, this is not just about you coming and helping Microsoft. This is about how Microsoft can accelerate the mission of Ally, right? How we can get that mission to 100 million people, right? 1,000 times. And that, to be honest, appealed to me a lot. And financially, it was always a very, very good transaction, but we could have done that by ourselves too, right? Financially, I had people ready to invest in the company in the next round and all that stuff. Right? But this one, even if I raised a lot of money, I cannot get to 100 million users that quickly. And that really, really appealed to me. How do we bring purpose to 100 million people? So we ended up actually starting the real conversations with them, which ended in the acquisition a few months later.
Super, super. How many employees do you have now in Ally Vetri?
We have close to 300 at this point, and more than 70% are in India, and almost all of the folks in India, most are in Chennai.
Oh, in Chennai. That's okay. So your development center is in Chennai.
It is. It is. My previous company, development center, was also in Chennai, right? Kronos, and that's why we are very. Of course, me and my co-founders are familiar with Chennai, but we also have a lot of people from our previous company who are familiar with working with us.
You have a lot of CEGNs working in Ally?
We do have quite a few, actually. We do have quite a few CEGNs, some from MIT too. And it's amazing, Vish, I'll tell you. I mean, we have a lot of IITians and all the other folks too, right? We are very happy to be able to attract some great talent. But I mean, some of the best engineers we have actually have come from Guindy.
Super. I think we should tape that and show it to some of our recruiters.
Yeah, we went to campus last year too, and this year hopefully we'll go back. But this year will be my.
Did you hire last year from campus?
We did. We hired actually last year.
Super.
Yes.
Are you looking specifically for computer science or?
I definitely computer science, but what we found, Vish, is there are people in other disciplines too who just love computer science. In fact, they code more than our CS people code, right? And they are practically in many ways better, right? So we do keep we cast a wider net, looking for the best people.
Yeah. So a lot of the people who are going to watch this video, listening to the video now, are all aspiring or wannabe entrepreneurs. Many of them are very young as well. You obviously have gone through this entrepreneurial grind twice and succeeded in both times. I think a success rate is 100%, which is not very common with entrepreneurs in general. So what is the secret sauce? We want to share the secret sauces, what makes it. And in general, what is the advice you would give for any entrepreneurs in terms of how to get there?
Got it. Yeah, the first thing I'll say is, I mean, I'd love to take credit for being successful, but to be honest, we all know, anybody who's been an entrepreneur knows a lot of it is luck, right? So I want to give credit to luck now as the number one factor why I got lucky twice now in a row, right? In terms of advice, right? I mean, I don't know. Let me think. So the first thing is get started, right? Don't wait, right? I waited too long. I waited 14 years, right, to start the entrepreneurial journey. And every time I kept thinking, man, I'm running a multi-hundred million dollar business. I'm learning how to run a business. I'm learning how to manage large teams. I'm learning how to launch products. But almost everything I did at Microsoft was different when I tried to do it on the outside, right? When you have Microsoft brand, it's easy to sell. When you have the kind of manpower, it's easy to build, right? And so everything is very, very different. And if I were to go back in time, I would have gotten started sooner. Take the plunge. Does not mean you do it full time, but just start, right? And see where it goes, right? Um, some people I talk to, right, including my friends at Microsoft who are like done very, very well. These are technical fellows and all that. They still dream of doing startup, and they're waiting for the right idea. And I think that's a myth, right? Start with an idea, your idea will change. In Cronus, my first idea was actually not even about mentoring. It was about how do you help doctors, physician officers with scheduling. And that I realized within 2 weeks that was not something I was genuinely passionate about, even though that was a good business. And I pivoted to something else, right? And a lot of companies start with some idea and become something else. Some of the greatest companies got built that way, like Slack and many others. So get started, right? And talk to customers. Don't go build a product. Talk to customers or potential customers who you think will buy or use the product, and start learning. Right. Or the best timing to work out. Get started soon, and even if you don't have all the experience, the best experience is doing and learning something. That'll be my first advice if I have to go back in time. The second one probably is be disciplined, right? People think startups are all about taking up all kinds of risk. I don't think startup is about risk, increasing risk, about reducing risk. Every month, every quarter, you're going to know something more about your business that reduces the risk of your business, right? Every month, you know, to customers, you want this product. People even have this problem. Or can I really sell? Can I sell it at the right price to make money and build a massive business here? Right? So you have to be disciplined about what is it I don't know and set clear milestones and timelines. By this time frame, I'm going to know this. Otherwise, maybe there's not a good business here, right? And you should be willing to walk away. So be disciplined. That does not mean just walk away willy-nilly, but be disciplined. Give yourself enough time to validate the idea. And if you're not getting the right metrics, be disciplined and pivot to the next idea or next customer base. Right? Same idea, but to a different customer. The third thing I would say is be grateful, right? We are all, I don't know, entrepreneurship is a tough journey. You're going to go through lots of ups and downs. And always, if something is going well, right? Be grateful for what's going well. Um, I have this saying in my house, right? Be thankful for what you have, but be fearless for what you want, right? That's the balance in entrepreneurship, right? You got to be fearless, right? At the same time, you have to be realizing that so many things are still working in your favor, right? I mean, in fact, you all are gone Gindi. It's already working in your favor, right? What an amazing school to go to, right? We have to be thankful and grateful for that, right? So many equally smart kids didn't make it to Gindi, right? They didn't work hard enough or something happens. The last thing I'd say, Chris, is, yeah, I mean, think about the risk of not doing this, right? There's always a risk of doing a startup, but there's, in my opinion, a bigger risk of not doing a startup and not going after your dreams, if that is your dream.
Yeah, super. I think it's nice to hear something good about Gindi. A lot of students nowadays are a little bit disillusioned, and probably rightfully so as well, because the recognition, the brand recognition, and the reputation of the college is not quite that good as it used to be. For a lot of reasons, a lot of many reasons, which many of it we don't have any control over. But it is important for people to hear that it is a good college, and people who came from this college are successful. One of the many reasons why I wanted these sessions like this with people like you is students and young alumni need to know that people who have gone through the same school in the same campus can also succeed. Now, very often we hear about IITians being successful, and it's true, IITians are very successful, but that doesn't mean other colleges are not successful. I think in my last 2 months of research, I found close to 300 people like you, and just by not even going aggressively, just asking people done phenomenal work. People in very top corporations in the US, very big founders, etc. So the whole purpose of this session is to bring people like that to talk to people. So you say, hey, it's possible, it's doable. Yeah, it's not something reserved for some special people or anything like that. Things like that. Anyway, before you go, the next thing I want to ask people is that the Slido session is open. I just put out a question now. If you could guys please respond to the question, that would be helpful. Also, please start posting your questions for Vetri. We'll get to the Q&A sessions in the next few minutes. Okay. So last question I have from my side, Vetri, is that for people who are studying in CEG now, who are graduating, what are the common questions that they have? Is it better to start a company, join an existing company, go for higher studies, go to the US? So all these choices are in front of them, and quite often they don't have much guidance in terms of what they should do. Obviously, there is no one size fit all. But if you were to be giving them advice in terms of what you would do, that will be helpful.
Got it. Got it. A very, very tough question, Vish. Really, each of us has our own path, right? And it's something you don't even chart it. Sometimes it happens for you, right? But what I would say is, my journey, I really enjoyed it because I really think coming to the States and studying here helped me learn computers even better, right? I mean, the things that the education system here is awesome, right? Now, we are all glad that we went to, I'm very glad I went to India, and I hope all of you are, right? It's a premier school. It still has strong recognition in the US, right? And a strong network. So many of my classmates from India have done really well, and my seniors and my juniors too, right? So the network is there, but in terms of really having this wonderful education, I really enjoyed the wonderful educational experience here, right? I think it is worthwhile for most people to check it out. Also, it's good to experience different cultures. US obviously is a completely different culture, right? It is, I think real knowledge comes from the experience like that, right? Experiencing different cultures and different kinds of people. You build tolerance, you learn a lot. So my suggestion is to think about it. If it makes sense for your journey, right? I think having that year and a half, two, if you're doing only a master's, I think can be a great experience. I don't think it's a must, like, oh, I got to spend like so much money to go there for the namesake. But really, if you genuinely value learning things better than you learned at Kindi, and you want to have this experience and exposure to different cultures, I think it's a very enriching experience. And my suggestion is after that, instead of what I did, going to Microsoft, I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, go join a startup. Microsoft was a startup, almost a startup back then, but go join an even smaller startup or do something on your own, right? Early on, right, the cost of taking this risk is low because later on in life you're going to get paid even more, right? So the cost of you not taking the job or that opportunity and doing a startup is even higher later on in life. I think experience in some cases is overblown, right? That some areas is important, right? With highly technical areas, you want to have deep expertise. But in many cases, particularly in startup land, things are changing so fast. Your ability to focus, deliver, move fast matters a lot more than expertise. So I would say if startup is in your cards, do it sooner than later. Otherwise, go take a job in a place that is not necessarily about paying you the most, but where you learn the most, right? Early on, focus on learning, right? And then later on, you can harvest for all this learning, right? And make sure you're getting paid the top dollars. But early on, that should not be the number one goal. Go to a place where you think you'll learn the most. And that usually is from a team, the kind of people you'll connect well with and learn most from. That would be my recommendation. Again, there's no one size fits all. I mean, I look at what our friends at Ninja Kart have done, Thiru and others, right?
Yeah.
They've done phenomenally well, and they didn't necessarily follow this route, right? There are multiple routes to get to where you want to, but I think the long term, having broad exposure early on and having the learning experience early on makes a difference.
Okay, cool. So let's go to the questions from the audience. First question is from Ambalavanan. Ambal, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Vetri. The question is really actually talks about pivoting. So you were actually touching upon it from in the Cronus time when you started off. You were doing this. So I also strongly believe that like the companies which are able to pivot quicker and timely manner, are the companies that are going to be successful. But the real question is, how do you determine what is how long you should take before pivoting, and what are the metrics that you apply, and what was the guiding principle that you applied in real time, because that's more related to the pretty much related to the Cronus. And
Yeah.
so whatever experience you had in Cronus is what it made you to be successful in LA in the first hit itself. So can you just share the experience on Cronus?
Sure, Ambal. It's a great question. Something I did not do very well, and to be honest, in Cronus. And as you said, I learned on how to do this better while doing Cronus, and then I did it better, hopefully, in Ally. Um, what I learned is, as entrepreneurs, we do these things because we strongly believe in what we do, right? We are like such strong believers in our ideas, our solution, why the world needs it, and why it's going to be a massive business. And we are kind of, it's necessary, otherwise you'll never be able to get this rocket off, right? You need that kind of willpower to get this off the ground. But it also can cut the other way, right? We just believe in the idea for too long, when the writing is on the wall. So what I did second time around, or what I learned is, and did a little better second time around is, I had a clear set of criteria. I said, if this business has to be of this size, for example, I'm not going to build, it can be anything, right? You can say, I want to build $100 million business or $1 billion business, whatever it is. And for me, it was a specific goal I had, right? Which meant that you got to actually have the market size has to be so big. You got to have at least 100,000 companies willing to buy your software and pay this kind of money, right? For example. And I really set out to actually validate that. I went and actually interviewed people. Instead of asking them, hey, do you like what I built? I asked them, what's the number one problem in running a business? Right? And I was watching for what they said. If they didn't say what I was solving is one of the top three things, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have anything to sell to them. People have a lot of problems, but if they're not in the top three, they won't buy your product. They won't even search for a solution, right? And so second time around, instead of telling them, build this, would you like to, do you think you find it useful? I just asked them a broader question, right? I said, okay, I think my buyers are people who are running businesses, and I need to actually make sure what percentage of them will be interested in it. So I reached out to them and said, what's your number one problem? And fortunately, in Ally case, almost everyone actually, and I think 93% of people said this is one of the top three problems. And so I knew there was a business. Then very quickly I had to validate the pricing. I gave myself essentially about 3 months to do each of these validations. And if the number didn't come out to what I expected it to be, that didn't mean that I'm going to give up on the idea. I'll be like, maybe that's not my customer. I have to go sell to somebody else. But that somebody else still has to be, there has to be 100,000 of them, and they need to be willing to pay so much money so I can build a massive business 10 years down the road. That is how I went about it, Humble. I set these metrics very early on, and I gave myself about 3 months for each milestone. And the milestones were, do people even have the problem? Would people buy a solution that I was offering? Right? You can actually have a solution like OKRs, but it's hosted in cloud, people are paranoid, right? Oh, my goals, company goals are in some other place, right? What if it leaks out and stuff? So will people buy into the solution? Will people pay you the kind of money you expect them to pay you? And the fourth question is, can you actually effectively sell to them, right? So I gave myself in actually 6 to 12 weeks to answer each of them. And there was a similar, I tried to do another business example between Cronus and Ally. Yeah, I was kind of exploring it, I didn't really try to do it. And I followed a similar methodology, and I realized that business was much smaller than originally thought, and I left that business.
So in Cronus, how many times you did the pivoting?
I would say 2 times, right? The one was when we thought this would be around selling to consumers, right? We thought we'll go to Gmail model. We first go to consumer and then sell it to businesses. And we had like several 100,000 customers, but we couldn't monetize. So that's the second phase, right? People interested in your offering, people use your offering. Now can you get so many dollars per user or per customer, right? And it failed in the third part. So we pivoted to businesses, and that was one. And before that, the idea itself was completely different number. But within mentoring, I pivoted once from one target audience to a different target audience.
Thank you.
Right. Next question comes from Roger. Roger, do you want to unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes, hi. Hey, thank you, Vetri, and it was very inspiring. And my question is, you mentioned about this pivoting concept, and what were the challenges for to get that first 10 users? I mean, like breaking from that, I mean, yes, sometimes we'll say, wow, they're excited, but they're not really making any action or anything to use it on a regular
Yeah.
basis. So what are the first 10 challenge? And also, did you have any challenge in terms of, or you choose your co-founders, or it just happened by itself?
Wow, great questions, Roger. I can see you're speaking from experience. All right. So,
I am 60. I'm going to be 60, so I'm still an entrepreneur, still growing.
all of us are. All of us are. Right? The second question is a bit easier. I'll take that. And the first question probably is a slightly lengthier answer, right? I did pick my co-founders. I actually had written kind of what are the qualities I want to have in the co-founder, and then I wrote what are the skills, and not the other way around, right? People often say I want a marketing person, but I first wrote because you're going to be in the boat with this person for a long time, or these people, right? And you want to make, and you're going to go through definitely. There are days where I woke up in the morning, whether it's Ally or Cronus, and I thought I was king of the hill. Things are going so well, and I'll go to bed that night thinking, man, everything is gone, right? It is like you go through those ups and downs, and you want to make sure you have the right people, right? The people you really want to work with. It does not mean they don't push you and all, right? You have to push each other, right? But you want to be, you believe in the same things, you have similar values and qualities that you are at least rowing in the same direction, trying to row in the same direction. So I wrote down qualities and then I wrote down skills. Like ideally, you want to be complementary in your skill set. And then I actually started looking within my network, right? I said, who are the right people? And I made actually in my first company, as well as second, I made a list of people. Many of them will turn you down because they already have comfortable jobs. In my case, a lot of them are already at Microsoft. They always dream of doing a startup, but it's very hard to leave a comfy job and do a startup. So a lot of people turn me down. So and then I found the right people at Cronus. In our case, I was not that successful. I just didn't find the right people. There are people, and it's okay, right? It's better than having wrong people on the board, right?
So you
You
are
want
you
to
are
right people.
more of a technology guy, or you do both technology and marketing?
I mean, you have to do both, Roger, as you know,
Of
right?
course, but
But my preference is I'm a product guy, right?
product.
Of course, the first 100 plus customers in Ally I had to sell, the largest deals in Cronus I had to sell, right? So you're always selling, right? You're as
Obviously,
an entrepreneur, you're selling a vision, selling to customers, pitching to recruits, right?
employees
You're always
also.
selling. Yeah, exactly. You're always selling, and it's not like selling in a bad way, right? You're sharing why you are excited about the business, right?
Right.
And you're hoping the customers will come along for the ride or employees will come along for the ride. Yeah, my background though, I mean, what I enjoy the most is product, but realistically, what I think my strength is I'm good in connecting dots. I'm good in talking to customers, getting them excited about what we are building, and then connecting the dot to what the product needs to be, and connecting that to what the business model should be. That is really, I think, something that I'm reasonably good at. But if you ask me what I enjoy the most, it's products.
Thank you.
And
And
the
10
first
users.
question is a longer one. Yeah, one,
Okay.
Roger. Right? Sorry, you're going to say something, Roger?
First 10 users.
Yeah, the first 10 years, that's a harder one, man. I'll tell you, it really, I think sometimes the struggle starts before the first 10 users, Roger, right? In my case, in Cronus, I did not do proper user research at all, right? Because I had such a strong belief, yeah, mentoring made all this thing happen to me, everyone should benefit from mentoring, right? Why would people not want mentoring, right? It was my question. And I just didn't, that faith actually pushed me in the wrong way, to be honest, right? Because you're trying to build a business at the end of the day, right? You got to make sure there are enough people who are willing to pay for it and you can deliver value and extract value as a result, right? And when you're struggling with customers, really, I think the first step maybe did not happen as well, right? You have to make sure that because we like our ideas. And first time around, I remember I used to show people, hey, isn't this beautiful? Would you not want to use this? Of course, all these people are like, of course, keep going, right? And if you are not building something that's a top three problem for someone, right, some segment of customers, you don't have a business. And so you have to start from there. You have to start with really guessing who the customers might be and reaching out to them even before you build anything, right? And asking them, what problems do you have? If again, and listen carefully, right? What words do they use? Even if they are talking about the problem you are solving, listen carefully to the words they use because that's your marketing message, right? If you hone that first part, to be honest, the second part is a bit easier because you already know who the customer is, you already know what words they use, what describe the problem, and you have to only pitch it to them, right? And in the world of LinkedIn ads and Facebook ads and Google search ads, right? It's not very hard to attract their interest, right? I mean, in Ally case, we started having customers like within the first week itself, paying customers, right? Within the first week itself, and unaffiliated. These are people you don't know, right? They kind of see the message and buy. I think if you do the first step really, really well, second step is easier. And don't go with affiliated customers, people who know they are trying to help you. They're nice people, they help you, but that comes in the way of you building a great business.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vetri. The next question is from Murali. Murali, do you want to unmute and ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Vish. So, Vetri, first of all, thanks for taking the time. And my question probably, I'm realizing is going to build on Roger's question. Okay, so we were discussing about the initial customers. My question is more on, once we have kind of hit the product market fit, you are having a sizable revenue and you want to scale. Of course, I understand capital is the fuel, but that's just not enough. You need an organization structure that is actually going to perform like a rocket ship. So I want to kind of learn from your experience and your challenges on how did you do it with Ally.
Oh, wow. Another great question, seriously. You are absolutely right, Murli. The capital is not the biggest thing at all, right? Because in the first company, I didn't even raise external capital, right? Customer money funded the company. And the second case, if you're doing well, capital will come and find you. You don't even have to go looking for capital, right? That's what ended up happening at Ally, right? Almost all my rounds, I didn't really try to raise. People came and gave us offers, and we had to just pick and choose which ones, right? You can get lucky if your business is going well. So the core is how do you create value for customers, right? And for that, obviously, you need a team to do it. It depends on the trajectory of the business, Muralidharan.
Mm-hmm.
So in Krona's case, right, I knew that the business was growing at a particular rate, and I in fact had rules. For example, the customer success team, right? The basic structure of the company is pretty straightforward, right? You have a go-to-market team, which is your marketing and sales. You have a customer success team, and then you have your product and engineering, right? And then you have business operations, finance, HR. So that as one function. And my customer success team, as an example, I had this rule that when each CX customer success person will handle up to 12 accounts because these are large enterprise accounts. And when somebody got to about 8 to 9, we start hiring the next one. Right? So that was based on the trajectory of the company because it takes us about 3 to 6 months to train a new person. And the trajectory of the company was actually, Kronos was different from Ally. In Ally, actually, it was different where we had to plan far ahead because the company was growing much faster. And we had to plan like almost a year ahead, right? We are guessing where we would be a year from now and start hiring people ahead of time. But before you go to even that, right, there's org structure, not like what are the boxes like GTM and so on, but who is in these boxes? And there actually, my thought process is that find someone who's right for the next year to 18 months, right? It's very hard to find someone who will be with your company when you're less than 1 million in ARR, all the way to 10 or 100 million in ARR. Find the people who are the right fit for today, and you can hope that they'll grow with the company. In the worst case, you got to bring more experienced people, and they need to learn from more experienced people. Muralidharan, I'm not sure if that was your question, though. Did I answer your question, or did I go off tangent?
No, yes, Vetri definitely answers a part of the question. Now, one is, look for 12 to 18 months in terms of the hire, in terms of people who are going to help us scale. The other aspect, the dynamics within the organization that is of interest to me, when we are also adding people, how do you basically keep the different teams and especially the different functions in sync? That
Very good.
they are really supporting each other, but not going off on their own tangent.
Yeah. No, great question. So there are two parts to it, right? One is actually the culture of the company. That's something that I didn't, to be honest, pay as much attention when I did the first one, right? When I did Kronos. Then some of my hiring mistakes, right? Again, hiring mistake doesn't mean that person was a bad performer or something, they are not just the right fit for your company. They are awesome people too. Just that we as companies not the right fit for them. And those mistakes happened because I was not paying enough attention to culture, right? So early on, even if just three things, right? These are three things we care about as a company, right? At Ally, for example, with the first week wrote down these values. We said number one is to be transparent and direct, right? We don't want to be people talking behind each other's back. Whatever the problems are, right? Whatever is going well, good or bad, we're going to talk openly about it. Then we said we are about uh, data, right? We are going to be data driven. We don't want to be personality driven. It's not like somebody in the company is smart and they make calls, right? We make calls based on data. And when we don't have data, we'll still make calls, but we'll validate the data as quickly as possible. We'll assume that decision is wrong. So we wrote down a few things like that. And that actually helped us, right? We used that in the interview process to make sure that these people believed in the right values. And of course, then we look for the skill set, right? What is the skill set? Do they have the right expertise, experience? But the value system is where a lot of times I went wrong. Even when bring people in and you see conflicts, it's often because they're not aligned on values. So that would be one, right? That I would suggest that I messed up and I did slightly better the second time around. The second thing is using a framework like OKRs, right? That's why I went to OKRs, right? Keeps things extremely well aligned. Okay, what are the companies striving for? How are each of us contributing or aligning to this top level objective? And it goes further and further down, right? And two things happen. One is there's a very clear alignment, right? Everyone knows how they have to work with another team to contribute to the company's goals. They also, when you go further and further down the organization, everyone clearly has a clear sense of purpose. Hey, this is what I'm doing, so company does this, our customers get this, right? So that alignment, transparency, also through a framework like OKR. There are other frameworks too, right? But I use OKRs and I like them. That also helps.
All right. Thank you so much, Vetri, and really appreciate answering this from your experience. I mean, we can see it. Probably you are going to be a good mentor. You are already a good mentor, and that really speaks out.
Yeah, you make enough mistakes, right? As I'm old, I have made enough mistakes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Vetri.
Thanks. Next question is coming from one of our alumna, Nitya. She said she's traveling. Nitya, can you ask the question or should I ask the question?
I think Vish, you can ask the question.
Okay, I'll ask the question. Thanks. Okay. So Nitya's question is, how does it feel to work as an employee at Microsoft and now being acquired by them as a product owner / entrepreneur?
The second part, I don't know yet. I've just gotten back in. I started actually last week as a full-time employee. But when I was an employee, I was much earlier in my career, right? And Microsoft gave me incredible opportunities I don't know that I could have created by myself. And I was very, very lucky. That, as I said, I worked on so many V1 products, right? I worked on the very first version of Exchange and very first version of Internet Explorer, right, when Microsoft was competing with Netscape. Those opportunities are really, really fun when all you want to do is build products and write code. So I had a phenomenal time with a lot of independence at that time in the company. And so I had great mentors, as I already shared. So I have only, to be honest, great things to say about Microsoft from back then, from my experience back then. Plus, the growing company, there are rough edges, like any company will have, but overall, highly net positive. This time around, I do feel the company is a different company, slightly different. I think Satya has kind of transformed the company to be a lot more collaborative, a lot more customer focused, with fewer constraints. And when I'm in meetings, I'm like, super jazz. Wow, this feels different. And the kind of conversations I'm having, I'm like really, really excited. And also now I'm a more senior person in the company. I'm very excited about having the opportunity to think about what should the future of work be, right? What does hybrid work mean for 500 million people? So that opportunity now excites me a lot. Day to day, how do I feel as an employee? I had to give it some time. But right now, I'm in a honeymoon period and I'm really having a great time.
Good answer. Honeymoon period, I like that. The next question also from Nitya is, what are the challenges that you are facing as an entrepreneur? And what is the best for an entrepreneur, getting acquired or an exit?
I mean, I've had both, right? My first company was acquired by a private equity firm, right? Uh, of course, second one was an acquisition. I don't think there's a best path. The way I think about it is, you started the company for a purpose, and I don't think it's making money, right? Because making money, if that's the goal, you should not start a company, to be honest. There are far better, more certain ways to make money, right? If you take the probability of making money in a startup and what you might make, actually it will come out lower than what you might make in a uh, just being an executive in another company, right? I think there should be a purpose to why you start a company beyond making money. Um, and you got to always optimize for that, right? The reason I ended up taking the offer from Microsoft is that, right? When I was talking to most senior level executives there in the company, as I shared before, they said this is not about just Vetri, you coming and helping Microsoft, but how Microsoft helped accelerate the mission of the company 1,000 times, right? And that happening over getting hundreds of millions of users in 3, 5 years is something I could not have done it otherwise, right? So that was the right thing for the mission of the company. So we ended up taking that path. So I always look for what path helps me to accelerate the mission of the company and then follow that path. I would suggest something along those lines, right? And then money will follow.
Next question is from another alumna, also somebody who not able to ask the question here. The question is, I am a new entrepreneur and starting a product company in the US. I wanted to know how to get the attention of investors for my venture. Pretty broad question, isn't it?
Say it one more time, Vish.
I am a new entrepreneur and I'm starting a product company in the US. I wanted to know how to get the attention of investors for my venture.
Hmm. Got it. So, see, the investors will pay attention when you do two things, right? One is for everything you might hear about investors, right? They are very risk-averse people, right? They want to make more sure bets, right? And so you have to be seen as a more sure bet, right? Compared to other bets they can make, right? So they are risk-averse, right? I used to have the wrong impression of them, right? The second is they are smart people, but they won't understand your business as well as you will. So the best way to get their attention is number one, really get customers. Eventually they'll call your customers, right? Even if you're a teeny company, they'll call your customer. What do you think about that person or that company or that product? So get good customers and make them really, really happy, right? And during that phase, you got to be very lean and mean, right? That phase where you really are so customer focused, see customers, make them genuinely happy and have them become real advocates. That is the real success of the business because sometimes what happens is people raise money and there's really not a business. If you don't have business, if you don't have happy customers, people value what you have built and are willing to give money for it. Right? And so focus on that first and be lean and mean during that phase of doing it. Even 3 months, 6 months, right? Not more than a year. If you're taking more than a year, then maybe that's not a great idea. The second is to find customers early on, ask around, right? Ask alumni, CEG alumni, or other friends, right? People when you're an entrepreneur, we all understand that being an entrepreneur is a very lonely journey. And other entrepreneurs are often very, very willing to help, right? I make several introductions a week, right, for other entrepreneurs to VCs, right? And other people did that for me, right? Ask entrepreneurs, do not cold call VCs, that rarely works, and find the right VCs, and then use your network, your LinkedIn network, your CG alumni network, to get introductions.
Next question, Vetri, is from Deepthi. Let me give an intro for Deepthi. Deepthi is a final year student in CEG. She is also the president of a student club called Capitalize, which is a student club for entrepreneurship. And so she's organizing those programs for all the 4 colleges. So, Deepthi, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Good evening. It's really nice, and I'm really happy that I could attend this session. I just wanted to ask one particular question, which I face when I am dealing with a group of students who want to start a company or they are interested in entrepreneurship. So you know how you were able to pivot from your original idea multiple times during your journey. You were able to analyze whether your idea was going in the correct direction, or you were able to understand that even though this was your goal in the beginning, it's not necessary that this is what the customer base needs, or this is not going to make you money, or this is not what is going to work for your company. And it's actually a really hard thing for a lot of people to do, because most students who we get are very passionate about a particular idea. And I try explaining to them that you need to actually do your market research, and you need to actually understand if this solution that you've come up with, if this idea that you've come up with is actually going to resonate with the market, or if people are going to have use to it. Will people spend money for it? But then it's actually something that's really hard for a lot of students, at least students who are very, very enthusiastic and passionate about a project, for to understand. Uh, would you have anything that you would suggest for me to make students understand that it's a process and pivoting is something that everyone has to go through? Because students, at least engineering students in an university right now, let's just say that we don't they're not exposed to a lot of real world startups from their first year and second year. And usually it's only when they start looking for internships do they come in contact with people who have startups, and they do understand a little more when they're in contact with these startups of how a startup is run, or how new businesses work and stuff. So would you have a way in which I could communicate that to students that they would understand?
Got it. Got it. Hey, TC, first and foremost, let me start by congratulating you for being head of the organizing the association, the Society on Capitalize. That's awesome. I wish something like this existed when I was in Gindi. Thank you for doing that. That's fantastic. Your question, DP, is actually very, and what you're struggling with is actually something all of us do, right? All entrepreneurs do, all mentors for entrepreneurs do, because particularly engineers, product people like me, we think we just build and people will come, right? And until you fail and it hits in your head, you don't realize that's not how the world works. What I think will be helpful is two things, Deepti, in your case. One is to get entrepreneurs to come and talk to people, right? People just see the final end result of an entrepreneurial journey, right? Oh, that person was successful, but they don't see the thousand failures that happened before that, right? And those thousand failures were essential to get to the final outcome. And people don't understand that journey. Oh, that person built a product and sold. It is never, never that, right? So if people really understand the full story, right, they may be able to internalize it, right? And they have to hear it from two, three people, not just one, right? Because this whole story of entrepreneurship, I think, is glorified in press, right? If you read articles, someone makes it look like, oh, somehow we went from here to here and it's massive success. No, you know, and between you failed so many times, right? You had to change, learn, and that journey is something people should understand. The biggest learning people have in that is they build the product first. I know so many entrepreneurs who did what I did in my first company, Cronus, right? And struggled because you build the product first, right? And I think if they hear directly from entrepreneurs and go into the details of the story, they might learn a lot. The second I would suggest is what the incubators do is actually they give people kind of a structure, right? They tell them the first 2 weeks, this is what you do. You don't go build a product, right? If you're part of my club or you're part of actually being an entrepreneur in this society or this organization, right? Here's the structure we recommend, and this is what we want you to come back and do. Okay, after the first month, all of us are going to present what we learned in the market, not demo our product, right? See if we can bring a structure and kind of make it consistent for everyone who's participating.
That was really informative. Thank you so much. I will try to implement it among my incubatees. So, thank you.
Just
Sure
a
thing,
quick
Deepti.
point, Diti, you may want to update people on the program that you guys do, Anantara. So a lot of people don't know about the program. Maybe you can just briefly describe the program to people.
So, this year we've actually elaborated the club more, and we have decided to be more focused on startups, which are in which students would have a better access to all the incubators in Anna University, which would include the Tamil Nadu Direct Incubator, the Center for Entrepreneurship and Development in Anna University, which is Anna University's own incubator, as well as the alumni incubator. So, in doing so, we've developed a series of events that happen usually once a week, or once in a while we have various other events going on. And apart from this, we hold a e-summit every year, which we have like a footfall of around 5,000 to 7,000 students. And we invite colleges all over Tamil Nadu for it, as well as outside Tamil Nadu. And we have e-cells who come from various other colleges, even from Bangalore. We get ECEL members, and they come and we showcase all the startups that we have hosted and executed that year, as well as we conduct numerous events where we fund new startups and new ideas and new prototype ideas during the 4 day span. It's a 4 day offline event which we host every year. And this year we're hoping to conduct it in January end or February, based on how NSEM examinations are scheduled in our university. So, uh, so this is a gist of what we do, but I would love to let you guys know more about the event once we have more clear regulations about COVID this year.
I have been to the program, Vetri. This is, I think, they've done it for the last 4 or 5 years. So they invited me for the first program. I think it was 2015 or 14. I don't remember exactly. See, my first impression was that it's a student program, so it's going to be one of those student-run programs. But I was completely blown away, honestly, with the way they did that. Actually, it was actually a very professional program in the Vivek Audi, and they had invited people for the dinner. The last day of the event, they had a round table dinner where they were actually honoring entrepreneurs from Chennai. Uh, so one of the first guy who got the award from Anantra was Murugavel Janakiraman, the CEO of BharatMatrimony.com.
Oh, wow.
So he was the first guy. And in fact, I remember they asked me to give the award to him. And when I go and I get the award to him, the award was a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he said that, "Wish you're making me look really old. I'm not that old yet." Old yet. But so they're inviting people like that, and it was quite a popular program. I was very impressed with the way they conducted it. I've been to several other programs subsequently. I would definitely encourage all of you who have a chance to go to those programs, because you have to see that students are able to do such programs from CEG, and it is truly a place for people to connect and network as well. So I definitely encourage people to go for that. Thanks, Deepthi.
Thank you, sir.
The last question is from Netra. Netra, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, yeah, Vetri, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm hoping this next question you'll be able to answer both as having been a product manager and also part of senior leadership and as a founder. But I'm a new product manager and I'm trying to understand what are the red flags from leadership that you look out for, even when you believe in the product that the company is going to either make or break.
Got it. Got it. Um, these are fantastic questions. Netra, what stage is your product in?
So we're actually a Series C startup in robotics in San Francisco, and we're kind of still struggling to find market fit. And I think our leadership is very good at finding funding. We're pretty strong on that front. It's just sort of the direction that we're trying to take the company in is sometimes a little bit shaky, and I'm trying to find out as a product manager what I should be looking out for in terms of good and bad things from leadership at this stage. And it's kind of a critical point for our company as well.
Got it. Got it. Got it. I mean, what's in your control realistically is to give them data, right, on the product market fit, what you're hearing from customers. Some business leaders observe data well. Some people like anecdotes. See, this is what three customers said about what's missing or why we are not yet clicking in terms of delivering that value. But I don't mean to be pessimistic here, but I mean, I've seen founders, right, who are good in raising money. And also what happens after some time is you raise enough money, you have to keep going. That's a really bad situation for the founder too, right? It is not an opportunity for them to go back to the VC and say, I think I was wrong, I need to pivot now, right? very, very, very few founders have the guts to do it, particularly if you are like a Series C stage company. So you have to, I don't know your founders well, obviously. I don't know your company at all. So just be realistic about your chances of what you're trying to achieve here, right? And see if you can give them data on where the current product market fit is. And you ideally use customer voice if that's what they like, or use data if that's what resonates with them. But I think you might be, again, not knowing the people you work with, I think it might be a tough situation for you to convince them to do
Yeah,
it.
it's we've been trying to find more market data. The thing is, initial decisions were made a little bit reactionary and also with customer anecdotes, which is not the worst thing in my industry because people on the ground know best what's missing. However, I think we have made some bold decisions that weren't necessarily backed by data, and I'm trying to drive that focus more in the company. Um, and yeah, your answer was actually super helpful in trying to combine the two and appeal to different types of leadership different ways. But yeah, I was just hoping to hear
Yeah.
that.
And take that emotional side as well into account, right? I mean, these people have gone to VCs, they put their reputation on the line, and their pitch deck says, we understand this, we build this, they will come, right? And they raised a lot of money on that. So for them to go back is also going to be hard. So you have to just be aware of that emotional angle as well. And then whatever resonates with them, hey, this is what we thought the market is, but this is what we are hearing from. And but here's a way, right, for us to kind of get back to what you thought the market might have been. Some pitch like that might work.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
The next question, Vetri, is from Ashwin. Ashwin joined a little bit late. Ashwin, can you unmute and introduce yourself and ask the question?
Hi, hi, Vetri. I don't know if you remember me,
Yeah,
Vetri.
good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Vetri. So, and just to focus on time, my question was on hiring, Vetri. So, I remember 15 years back when I moved to the United States, I had a few offers, but I joined your team, and the main reason I remember was, despite all the other things that my friends are recommending about team, they said, Vetri is a good man. That's one word that register in my thing, right? That you can trust this leader and work for his team. Uh, 15 years down the line, and I'm founder of this uh, company Motork. We are a connected car data platform. One of my prime problem is hiring, world class talent, and I don't know if others say that about me. I hope they do. I mean, at least I want to be deserving that. That said, how do you compete with large companies like the Googles and Facebooks when we try to hire similar talent for startups? And maybe another question is, are these companies necessarily growing startups should look for different talent itself and not compete with the Googles and Facebook? I'm just curious. I just
Got it.
pick
Got
two
it.
examples
Uh,
which people throw.
oh, no, this is great point, Ashwin. I mean, yes, your reputation as a manager matters, but I think whom you target matters even more, Ashwin. Right? Cronus, right? I mean, how did I hire the first five people? I mean, because you want to hire the best people, they have five other offers if that's what they want. What I decided was I will not compete with these big companies, right? So the people who are the right fit for my startups would not even consider an offer from Google, right? They want to be in a startup environment. They want to be the first 10 employees. They want to actually be responsible for building something from scratch, not the 10th employee or in a product team or 100th employee in a division, right? So those people would not even consider, right? In fact, in interviews, I've asked them, what are other companies that you think would be a great fit for you? And somebody says Amazon or Google. It's not wrong, just that they are not the right fit for me. They're awesome people. They're still awesome people. But that for me will always be a red flag. And sometimes I ask them, how can you be starting a startup and also talk to an Amazon? What are you looking for? And that's always a warning sign for me, right? That somebody thinks that they're looking this broad, right? At that point, I start wondering whether they're just looking for a job. And I don't hire people who are looking for a job. I want people who believe in a mission and want to come for the ride, right? And those people, you are the best fit for them, right? You are the once in the lifetime opportunity they've been looking for. And you have to just be selective in finding those people and let go of all the others, right? I mean, don't spend your time looking for people who are just looking for a job, whether it's with you or with Amazon. They are not the right fit.
Okay, good to hear that. Thank you.
So thank you. If there are no more questions, Vetri, a few closing comments. Really very good to have you on the call today. Very good questions and like your honest answers. Um, couple of things. The previous speakers who came to the session, I'd asked them if they want to share their contact information, email or phone numbers. Most of them had shared their email address. If people want to ask questions later on, they can ask the questions to you. That's one thing. So if you want to share your email address, you can type it in the box, or you can send it to me and I can post it, whichever way is convenient to you. Second thing is, as part of this program, CEG Connect program, we have this portal, cegconnect.com. Previously, what we were doing is that we were putting the recording of the speakers, like what we are doing now, so people who could not join can view it. One of the requests we got from alumni is that in addition to seeing the video, they also wanted a chat session uh, where they can ask questions to you, much like other things. So you have parallel chat sessions, one with each speaker that has completed the program so far. We are building that functionality, sort of like a WhatsApp chat, but this is going to be people who want to ask questions to Vetri will ask in the Vetri chat, and you can answer them whenever it's convenient for you. So would you be okay if we create a chat like that with your session so people can ask you questions?
Oh, absolutely. And the first one, my email address, Wish, I think you have it. Feel free to share it, right? It's vtvetrivel@gmail.com. And so feel free to share it. I mean, I think being a CG alumni and an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur journeys are so lonely. And our and the amazing talent in our college, and if people want to get on the journey, it's my job to help them. It's my responsibility. I'll do anything I can. Same thing applies to the chat as well. If I can, I'll be happy. Just that if I had to monitor one more channel, it gets a bit harder for me. Email might be easier because it comes into my inbox, but I will do my best to participate in that chat.
I have your work email, Vetri. I don't think I have your Gmail address, so if you could send it to me, I can post it to people here.
Sure. Yes, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Hey, Rajesh.
Hi.
All right. Rajesh is my classmate.
Yeah, just a comment here. I joined late, but congrats, Vetri, on all the successes and for sharing your insights. It's great. I joined the later part, but yeah, thanks for sharing. It's great to chat with you.
Likewise, man. Good to see you. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, guys, for joining, and thanks, Vetri, for your time. I know it's a little too early. 6:30 a.m. in the morning is not the best time to wake up and have a call like this, but I appreciate you joining for the call. We are doing. My plan is to do a session once every 2 to 3 weeks. We have done 5 so far, and all 5 have been very good calls so far. Very spectacular calls. We had 2 women CEOs from US. We had one from LinkedIn, one from Uber. You're the 5th one. So it's amazing to see the number of people from CEG who are in positions of very high influence, and what people want to hear more from are from entrepreneurs and founders. So you are the second person in the line who is an actually entrepreneur founder. Miss Radha Basu was the previous speaker. She's an entrepreneur. She's 70 years old and she runs a company which has operations in multiple countries. Amazing speech she gave about what she's doing. So actually, I am getting the benefit of knowing all these people like you very well. What I would request you is that both the Capitalize, which is the student-run club, as well as the incubators run by the college and the university, they are always in the lookout for mentors. And what they want is mentors who can relate to what the entrepreneurs go through. The challenge is we have some mentors who are previously corporate executives. They are good mentors, they have good advice, but they really cannot relate to what an entrepreneur goes through. Right? So we are looking for people like you who have started a business, run a business, gone through the grind, exited, become another entrepreneur again, and you're just going in cycles. People like you are the best people to listen from, in my opinion. So we might be getting questions from people who run those incubators in the college. There is, I don't know if you know, there are actually 3 incubators in the college now. We had none 4 years ago. We have 3 now. The first one was started in 2015 when a few of us in the Alumni Association decided that it is quite embarrassing for us to not have an incubator when every single Tom, Dick and Harry college in Chennai has an incubator. So we took money from the Alumni Association on loan and three of us started an incubator called CGAIN, CEG Alumni Incubator. It is still there in campus. We have gone through some cohorts, and a couple of them have exited and gone on to do very well as well. Second thing is there is a Anna University department called Center for Entrepreneurship Development. It's actually a department or a team under the Anna University umbrella, and their mission is to encourage students and basically motivate students to become entrepreneurs. So they are more of educational type organization where they do seminars, etc., all that. And the third one is the incubator that is funded by the central government of India. It's called the Atal Incubation Center. Atal program is a central government program where they choose select colleges and select corporates and fund them to have their own incubator. So Anna University or CEG got that approval 3 years ago, but then it took a while for them to actually make it work. So last year they started operation, and now we have a building with a couple of floors assigned to that. They have a full-time CEO, they have full-time staff, etc., all that, and they have the first cohorts going through. So there are multiple avenues that are starting up now for helping students, and all those places would need people to give them advice, guidance, mentoring, etc., all that. So you may get calls from them after this program. So don't be surprised. And of course, I think you also know that the SIGANA organization in North America, the CEG Alumni Association, they also have regular programs where they offer to the CEG alumni in North America doing mentoring, etc. So there are multiple things in bits and pieces. The last one I would say is there is a new department called Anna University Alumni Affairs. This is an organization different from the Alumni Association. The idea here is that Alumni Association is run by alumni for alumni, whereas the Alumni Affairs is run by the university to reach out to the alumni. It sounds very similar in approach, but they have very different objectives. That's a fairly new department that was put up a couple of years ago. So all these are new organizations which still haven't found their ground yet, to be honest. They are all trying to figure out what to do. And then we have people like Deepthi, Student Organization, taking the cake out of all of them. And so we actually have a competition to find who's going to find the best mentor. So you have a choice of organizations to contribute.
All right, I'll be happy, Vish, to contribute in any way I can. I owe a lot to Kindi and just amazing education and great friends I made from those times. So thank you. Okay. Next time, Vish, I have some suggestions for other people from Gindi who might be able to participate. So I'll follow up the offline. I know a couple of VCs also who might be helpful because people get a different perspective. Right?
Are these from Gindi?
Yes.
Oh, why don't you send me the names? I'd really like to talk to them as well.
Yeah, I'll do a couple of intros and
sure.
Because I think people benefit from getting an entrepreneur perspective, but also VC perspective.
So I think I think I have a few VCs in my list, but I would like to have more VCs in the list, obviously.
All right.
Angels, VCs, LPs, welcome. Entrepreneurs, founders, of course, always welcome. So if you have anyone from your batch, anyone you know from CEG, apart from VCs, that's also fine. So I will connect with you offline to get that. But if you can send me your email when you get a chance, then I will send it to people to publish it to them.
All right.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Vetri. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.